Hey guys, so we're going to be building the login form today on our website, and we're going to be just pretty much ping-ponging back and forth at this point where we're going to build something on the website and then we're going to build that on the app, and then we're just going to go back and forth. So as soon as we finish this login, we're then going to make the login on the app and then continue. So to do this on the website though, what I'm going to do is take pretty much the same model or the same way they did the register and build out the login. So I'm going to create a new folder inside of web modules, and I'm going to call this login, and I'm going to create a login connector.tsx, and I'm just going to copy what I have in my register connector. And we don't have a login controller yet, so I'm going to get rid of this, and we're going to create a login view. We don't need this comment anymore. Login connector, and for now we're just going to render, we can get rid of this actually, we're just going to render the login view, and we'll have our dummy submit, and we'll console.log the values and return null. Alright, and we'll pass that in right here. There we go. Submit this.dummy submit. Alright, so to make a UI folder and actually add or create this login view, and this is going to be pretty much the same thing as our register view, so I'm going to copy that and we're just going to alter some values. So the top part is pretty much entirely the same thing. So we're going to be importing similar fields, and then we have an email and a password to log in. When we finish, we want to submit, and we're going to be submitting the form values and possibly get some errors back when we log in. Here we can have a email password that's good. We can have a link to forgot password. We'll deal with this later. I guess we could have this as well. So we have or login now, so this will be login is what our button is going to say, and right here it says or login now. I'm going to say or sign up, or I guess I could say or register, and we're going to be using a link right here. So a link, this comes from React Router, so let's import it. React Router DOM. And this just allows us to create a link where I can just say /register, and then it'll take us to the register page. And this route matches the route that we have in our routes folder over here, and it'll change pages for us. And this is what you'll want to do when using anchor tags or links when using React Router. And we can actually just real quickly update our register view as well. So that can use a link as well, and we may be able to get auto completion. Let's see if it auto imports. Yep, I can auto import it too, and I'm going to say to/login. So we haven't created this route yet, but when we finish our login connector, we'll add this login route. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. And down here I'm just going to rename this to login view, and I don't think there's really any changes we need to make to this. Now this validation schema we don't really need, so I'm going to get rid of that. We're really just going to make a request to the server, and then if they send a request back that's bad, we'll say invalid password. One optimization we could also make is if the user leaves email and password blank, we could be like, hey, it needs to be not blank. So if we wanted to, we could add that. So if we go to our common source, schemas, we can add another validation schema here if we want to. So I could say export const, I'm going to call this the login schema, and it's equal to yup.object.shape. So at this point, here's like a few optimizations you can make with this. So with the email, I'm going to say So if it's not an email, I can say invalid login, or whatever we used in our login for our server. So we want the message to match. So if we go to, I think it's modules user login, we can see what we said. Alright, so we want a generic error response every time we make a request. So alright, we said invalid login, so we're going to say invalid login here. So if someone puts an invalid email, we don't even need to make a request to our server right now to know it's an invalid login. We can on the client side say this is invalid login, and the same thing with required. Now I can just say required here, or I don't even need to. If they leave email or password blank, they know they need to fill it out, so we're just going to tell them it's required. And same thing with the password. Now I don't really think we could also do min and max here actually. Copy this, and again same messages we want to supply here. So I'm going to call this const invalid login, and this message we're going to display every time. Oops. Invalid login. And in our password, let's copy the fields for that as well. Alright, and oh, I need the yup part. Alright, yup.string. And we'll put this comma here. Alright, so what I'm doing here is, and I needed to change the error message as well. So invalid login. So I know that my schema definition looks like this. So I know if someone enters an email that's less than 3 or is over this, I don't even need to send a request to the server because I know I'm not storing anything in my database that is this size. Now you can only make these kind of requirements or checks if you know specifically what the shape of your emails are in your database. If at some point you allowed emails that are larger than this or less than this, you really can't make this check client side. But this will definitely help on just, you can optimize some of the requests that are being sent to your server this way. So I like to do something like this. So we can go ahead and build this code. So if I come over here to packages common, I can just do yarn build, and we can now use this code over here. So this will be in my, not server, we're done with server, and our login view. So instead of valid schema, we can use the login schema. And let's make sure that built okay. It did. Awesome. So our validation schema is going to be a login schema. Alright. And alright, it can't find the module. That, I think it just needs to refresh. Alright, so I think we're good to test this out now. Let's see if our login connector, it doesn't like it. We need to make this asynchronous. So I'm going to add a route here for login. And we're going to use the login connector. And we might need to restart our server. Yep, so I'm going to just start this guy back up. And then we're going to go check out our website. Alright, so I'm going to head on over to /login, and we should be able to see our form. Now if I actually log in, we should only see right now here and not make a request. Also, I can click on this URL. It should take me, you can see I go back and forth between register and login, so the links are working. Alright, so this is me. I try to submit this. Now you notice it tells me it's an invalid login before I even submit. So that's not really an experience you want the user to have. So what I would recommend is, if we come over here to this, you turn off on, I think it's on blur. I forget what it was called. I think it was on blur validation. We say false. and also on change validation false. I don't think it's called on blur. So alright, so I don't know the name, what to pass this key. So this sometimes happens when you don't know this. So what I've started to do is I'll actually just like look at the type of what this thing is. So if you hit command, you can actually just click on this and I can see here are the values that I can pass in. So here's this higher order function thing here. And I can come over here and I can see, alright, so I can pass, I can use the with Formic type, and here are all the different things that you can pass to it. And I don't even see the validation thing, the handle blur, or the thing that I'm looking for. I don't know the name of it. If I click on Formic shared, it may be there. And yep, so sure enough, so I just basically dug through a few types deep and I found now what I'm looking for. So it's called validate on blur and validate on change. So I was not even typing the right keys here. But I've started to do that when I just like forget the name of things or I don't know the name of the keys. I'll just go look at the Typescript type like that. Alright, so I'm going to turn both of those off. So now the only time that the user will see an invalid emails after they hit submit. So I'm going to say Bob, and I say Bob here. We know this is a bad email, so we don't even need to send a request. It's going to tell me invalid login, right? So perfect. So we're going to say Bob at bob.com, and now it can actually send a request. But in this case, we just log it. All right. So now let's go ahead and actually connect, or not connect it. We have to actually create that first. Let's go ahead and create a controller. So in the controller folder, we right now have a register controller, and it's going to be pretty much the same logic for our other folder over here, or other controller. So I'm going to create a login controller, and I'm going to copy index.js into login. Alright, so I'm going to take this right here, so I just copied it over and I'm going to change it up a bit. First thing is our register mutation. So we're going to be doing a login mutation. So again, I have my server started up, and if you have it started up, you can actually just go to that URL and you can see graphical playground, or GraphQL playground. And here's what we did last time with the register, and we can see on the right here, here's our login, and we can see it's pretty much the same shape. I can just replace this with the word login and it'll go ahead and run. I don't have the keys though, so we need that. But anyway, we can copy this. And we can replace what we have here with that. So this is going to be a login mutation. And I'm going to say login mutation here. Now we just added a new query here. And so we want to get the Typescript types for that. And I guess this is a mutation, but either way, we want to get the types for that. So how we do that is, in the last video, we set up in our package.json that schema, codegen, generate, all that stuff. So I'm going to head over here and I'm going to change to the controller folder. And I'm going to say yarn, and I want to do the gen types one. So gen types. We don't need to build quite yet. What this should do is this is going to hit our endpoint, and it's going to look at our queries, and it should notice we have another query. So nice. So at least it found it. Looks like we did something wrong. And oh yeah, we didn't give it a name. So there we go. So I'm going to call this login and try this again. So yeah, you want to make sure, this is something I always forget, you need to have a name for your mutation or query. Alright, so everything ran. And it should be, you can see it's yellow over here. The schema now has some login stuff in it. So we're going to replace the types here. So I'm going to call this login controller. And now I can say login mutation. Or is it just called login? It looks like it might just be called login. This one's actually called register mutation. Is it because I called register mutation down here? Yep, so I called it register mutation. I'm going to call this one login mutation too to stay consistent, and it's easier for me to remember. So I've made a change to this, so I'm going to have to rerun. I do have some errors in my Typescript, so it looks like it just ignores that. Alright, perfect. And now if I look at my types, I should see a login mutation. Nice. So now I can say login mutation variables. And if I come up here, I can change my child mutate props. So I'm going to call this login mutation, and we're going to just use the same ones that we used before. And we don't need these guys anymore. And this is going to be login mutation variables here. And same thing here, login mutation variables. And we're just going to call mutate, and we want to see the response of it. Alright, so this looks good. Let's go ahead and use this now. So to be able to use this, I first need to export it. So don't forget about that. When you add a module in our index.ts, you'll see all the things our package is exporting. And we also want to export the login controller. So I'm going to say yarn build, and we can now access this from over here in our login connector. Alright, so it worked successfully. I'm going to say at add controller, and I'm just going to get the login controller. And we're going to wrap our login view here. There we go. Login controller. And we're just going to grab the submit function and put that there. So, and we do not need our dummy submit, so we can get rid of that. And now we should be calling our controller now. Again, come over here and we can give this a try. So let's actually create a user. Well, I guess we could try see if we get an invalid email one. So bob@bob.com. Bob. So this user does not exist in my database, but it is a valid email and password. So if I click login, it's actually going to hit our server. We can see that right here. Here's the response. And now we can see we actually got an error back from our server, right? And that's the correct thing that we should get. We should get invalid login. But notice we don't actually display it right here. So let's change that so we actually display this error here. So that's going to be in our controller over here. So we're going to take this response, and you can see in the response we get a key called data, then login, and then login itself basically is an array of errors. So data and then login. So really I'm just going to print the login response there, and I'm going to say if login, here we want to show errors. Otherwise we can just return null. So to show errors, we need to actually format this correctly. So right now, if we look at what we're supposed to return, right now we're just returning null, but if we look at our login view, we're supposed to be returning Formic errors that are form errors. Now the shape of this, and you can kind of see it right here, is a object, and you'll have your field name. So the field name might be email or password, and then the message you want to display. So we have to format our controller over here in a different format, because right now our format is an array of objects where it's going to be path, which might be email, and then the message, and I think I spelled it like this, is going to be invalid, blah blah blah, right? So we need to turn that into email is equal to invalid. So this is the transformation that we're going to do right here. And this is a common transformation because we have error messages in a lot of our mutations. So what I like to do is create a new utils folder and just create a function that will do this for us. So I'm going to say normalized errors.ts, and I'm just going to export const normalized errors. So that's what I'm going to call it. And it's going to take some errors, and the shape of this is an interface. So the error looks like this. It has a path, not name, which is a string, and a message, which is a string, and we have an array of those. So what we want to do is say const error map, and the error map is going to look like this. So we're going to have a key, which is a string, and it's going to have a string response. So here's how you do TypeScript types for a map. So I'm saying the key for this object can be a string, and then the value is a string as well. And so I just want to loop over the errors now. So I'm going to say errors.forEach, and we can call this error. We're going to say error map error.path is equal to error.message, and then we can return the error map. Alright, so this is how we're going to normalize the errors. One thing that might pop up is in our errors, there might be, for example, 2 problems with the error message, or 2 problems with the email. We might get 2 error messages. In that case, we're overwriting it, and I'm fine with that. So we're either going to take, I think in this case, we'll take the second error, because we're set up to only show 1 error at a time right now. Alright, so I'm going to say return normalized errors, and I'm going to pass in login, which is errors. Now we're going to get a problem with TypeScript, and we can see that right here. And the reason for that is we're not expecting this back. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say any or null. So I don't really need to say any or null. I can just say any. Reason why I am just saying any here and not putting a better type is because we actually can't specify a better type. So reason for that is if we look at this, our key is equal to a string, and that's what our errors are. We could actually, if we wanted to do a better error or better type here, what we need to do is in our over here in our login view, we specify Formic Errors, and we're actually specifying that we expect a key of email and a password, which is actually too strict. So what I'm going to do here, so we can have a slightly better error typing, is I'm now expecting an object back, which is a key string, and that's actually what we're supplying here. So I can do the same thing here, or null. So that'll give you a little better type definitions if you use that. Again, Formic Errors, if we come back over here, is too strict. It expects the key to be email and the password. You'll see if you try that out. Alright, so let's give this a try now. So I need to rebuild, and also if I come over to my login view, we don't need Formic Errors again. And now we should get an error message when we actually send the request, and we're actually good. I don't think we need to make any other changes. We can actually create a user and try logging in with him, and it should send a request, so we can try that out. So let's go ahead and say bob@bob.com, log in, and cool, it actually shows the invalid login, and we can see we get this response. So that's how you can show the errors that you get back from the server. Let's go ahead and test this the whole way through. So I'm going to refresh and get a 10-minute email. I am going to paste that in, and register a user. Oh, I forgot I have exceeding limit. Let me fix that real quick. Alright, so I got myself a new API key, and really I should just switch this out so I don't have to keep doing that, which I may do, but I went ahead and registered this guy right here. We got a good response, null back from registers and no errors. If I come back over here, I can see I actually want to send an email. Lovely. I can click on confirm email. I'm not going to click on this quite yet, because what I want to do is come over here to login, and I'm going to try logging in with my user, and it should tell me this exact error message, so I'm happy. It says please confirm your email, because I haven't confirmed it yet. I click confirm email, it says okay, and now if I click on that, it should say response is null, meaning the login worked. So if you get that sequence where before you confirm, it shows you that error message, and then afterwards you get no error message, it worked. Something you can also check is if you go to your application, cookies, you should see an ID for this. I forget what we called it. I think we called it QID. I can clear my cookies, so they're all gone. I can refresh, and I can log in again if I want to. And it should add a cookie right here for you. So that is it for this video, but I wanted to give you guys a few debugging tips if you're not getting this cookie, because it's important to get this. If you don't, you're not going to be able to persist users and know who your user is when they're logged in. So if you don't see a QID in your application cookies, I'm just going to clear mine for this example. And I want you to go over to the network tab and search for localhost. So I have mine, so I'm going to clear this. Make a request. So here I just requested that. And look at your response headers. So the first thing you want to check is make sure that in the headers that it's actually telling you, you get this thing right here that says set cookie. And you can see it's trying to set it. So that means good. The server is sending back a command or a header that it should set a cookie. The other things to check for if you're not getting this is in Apollo. So I can just search that. Apollo, and this is in the web. Make sure you have the credentials set to include. That's very important. And then also in start server, make sure that the origin for the cores is equal to localhost 3000 or wherever your server is running. So the value of this, the value of origin right here should be localhost 3000, and I believe I have HTTP in front of it. So you should have something like this, so you don't put like /login at the end. You don't have to add any routes, so make sure something like that is your origin. So try that out if you have troubles with cores or with setting the cookie. But if you get to this point, you're at a good place, and we'll be able to do all kinds of fun authentication stuff and authorization stuff with this.